This is Leisha Holmes, and I'm your host on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast. And although we aim to get all the thought leaders from across our recruitment industry, we do like to ensure that we've got a very good, diverse balance of people from across industries that I think have a direct relevance to what we do. And one of the key things that I've become really passionate about, certainly particularly since COVID, when I actually partnered with mental health and recruitment, is how we need to all ensure that we are looking after our own well-being and our mental health as much as we are our physical health. And one of the key things that we're doing as a business this year is we're actually going to have a live podcast, which you should all know about now. And one of the key benefactors will be this particular charity. And we're going to learn more about that from this wonderful resilience coordinator. This is Ruth Rosselson, and she works for Manchester Mind. Welcome to you today, Ruth. How are you?
Hi, I am well, thanks. I've been for a wild swim, an outdoor swim this morning, so I'm kind of all feeling good
bet
today.
you're feeling energized. Before we even get into what Manchester Mind's about, I did my first one, and I have to admit, I've chickened out doing it since, and it was the most exhilarating, frightening, scary, and then exhilarating experience I think I've ever felt physically. In a natural way. And I know that it's becoming such a hugely beneficial thing that we all have got access to do for free, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And at being outdoors, being in nature, and it's not freezing yet, the water, so
No.
it's cool, but it's comfortable.
Well, that says we record it now in the heat wave in September 2023. As this goes out towards the winter, can't promise that. But just as a little note before we do go into more detail, I know where I live in Ramsbottom, there are a lot of sewage warnings. So how do we know that where we're wild water swimming is safe?
Yeah, I don't tend to go much outside my tried and trusted places personally, but I guess it's just by connecting with other regular swimmers and checking. So yeah, I go to, say, a water park, which is relatively okay. And Pickmere near Knutsford, which has lots of swimmers and paddlers and kids and families, so you kind of trust that that's okay. But yeah, it is a huge issue that we need to keep raising awareness about, really.
It is definitely. Well, definitely. And if there are anybody listening or watching this now, and you have got somewhere that is safe to do this, we want to know about it. We want to share this information because it's free and accessible for everybody to do, but we want you to do it safely. So thank you for that. So without further ado, tell us a little bit about who you are, what your role is, and then a bit more about Manchester Mind and the Mind charity generally.
Okay, yeah. So I am Ruth. I am a resilience coordinator at Manchester Mind, and that's just a fancy word that says that I run courses and workshops to help people manage challenges and changes in their life. So I run workshops around stress management, introduction to mindfulness, because I'm an accredited mindfulness facilitator. I run 6-week courses for people with long-term physical conditions, because if you've got a physical health condition, it puts a huge strain on your mental health as well. And I run our mindfulness program, which includes an 8-week mindfulness and relaxation for menopause course, because that's also a huge issue for women kind of in that transition time of life, and may need some extra help and support through managing stress and their symptoms. So that's my role. I love interacting with people, so I do courses online and in person, but I'm just a very, very small part of what Manchester Mind does. So what people might not know is that National Mind is the big national charity. It does a lot of kind of awareness raising, or sort of all the campaigns you'll see around kind of stigma around mental health, but services are all delivered through independent minds. So each area has its own local mind. We are not funded by National Mind, so we have our own board of trustees, our own ways of raising funds where we can. It's always quite challenging, obviously, at this time as well. So we're kind of part of the national network, but we deliver services to Manchester residents. So we do all sorts of different things as well, and I think that's the great thing about Manchester Mind, is we kind of here to serve the people of Manchester and kind of try and meet their needs. So obviously we've got my courses, but we have other courses specifically. So we've got courses for young mums for our Mums Matter program, and those going through parents in the early help. We've got an allotment, grows our own fruit and vegetables, and we have volunteers who come there. And obviously being out in nature and volunteering is really beneficial for people's mental health. So that's a great project that kind of runs through, most of the year, not in the kind of deepest, darkest of winter. We help support people with benefit applications.
Right.
So, I mean, if you can
practical.
imagine, all of
Mm.
that bureaucracy is hard
Oh,
when you're mentally well. And if you're not well, it's just overwhelming. So we
yeah.
have an advice team who kind of help with all those sorts of things. So we have counsellors, we have a young people service, which includes counsellors, but also includes workers in schools. We support families, we support all sorts of people throughout the city. So we have lots of different services on offer. And for people who can't access the service, we've got lots of information on our website. So I know you're going to ask me a little bit about mental health. And what I would say about information is, tried and trusted places are really good, but we've got a wellbeing hub, which has got lots of information about different things that hopefully will be relevant for your listeners. That was a big woo.
I know, that was fantastic. But you know what, honestly, I'm so pleased that we got introduced to you through Anderson James Group. It's one of our clients, and I know that they've done a lot of fundraising for Manchester Mind particularly. But this, if you're listening to this now and you're thinking, oh, I'm down in London or I'm up in Edinburgh, from what Ruth has just said, there will be a local area that you can go and help and support, and we will definitely at the end of the show ask what people can do to get involved in their local community area. So the reason that I wanted to partner with you is because I think that we are trying to lose the stigma as an industry. Recruitment is, we are high performing, we are fast paced, we are, the pioneers of job creation, we're all of these superlatives, but actually we're all human beings too, and it's a very bloody stressful job. It's a really stressful job because our entire income is dependent upon another human being doing something, and they don't always do it. That's the truth. And it's targets, it's failure. There's a lot of areas of your day where you have to be truly resilient, and at some point somebody listening now has burnt out. And what I'm determined to do by somebody listening now that has got trigger signs is, how do we in ourselves spot what those potential trigger points might be, and also what can we do if we spot that in somebody else? Like what are their signs before it gets to that point?
So stress itself is something we all experience. It's normal, it's natural, it's not necessarily harmful in of itself. The problems come when we are under chronic stress, which means we're under stress for a prolonged period of time. And our resilience kind of gets affected. So it takes us longer to manage to deal with challenging events and challenging situations. So I would say that, feeling a little bit anxious from time to time, that might not be a problem. But if that starts to be more frequent, so maybe before you're about to make a call for someone or you're about to do something, you notice those feelings of anxiety, maybe tightness in the chest and in the belly. Okay, that's fine. That's normal. That's the body getting ready for you to do things. But perhaps then it starts to be a bit more frequent. You notice those physical signs and symptoms in other situations or unexpectedly. Obviously, our sleep is really affected by stress. So again, maybe a sleepless night from time to time, that's okay, we can manage that. But if we find ourselves maybe not sleeping well at all for prolonged periods of time, or sleeping too much, can be one or the other, that can be a sign that we've been in the stress mode for too long and we might need to do something about it. Our appetite can be affected. So some people might go off their food, not be hungry at all. Other people might kind of reach for all that we tend to, don't we, reach for the sugary snacks and the biscuity things and those things. And again, that in itself isn't the problem, but the problem comes when we're doing it all the time. So what I'd say is kind of know what your stress symptoms are, and know if it's starting to feel, actually, this is how I feel nearly all of the time. So that's when we can start to take a step back and go, actually, I may need to do something about this. Something that you used to find easy may start feeling challenging. So that might be kind of a red flag. Oh, hang on a minute, I used to do this. but it seems really hard now, or procrastination, putting off things. It might be going the other way, just overworking to try and prove yourself, that kind of drive. But our bodies can't sustain that kind of level of intensity and intense stress for prolonged periods of time. So the good news is that if you spot the warning signs towards burnout early, you can do something about it. The bad news is that burnout itself can take quite a long time to recover from. So I burnt out myself about 15 years ago when I was doing a very, very stressful and intense job overseas in Madagascar. And it actually took me around 7 months to be ready to work again.
Wow.
Because I was unwell, my body was unwell,
Physical.
my mind was unwell as well. So it's not just, when we talk about mental health, people think it's this separate thing. Here's our mind, there's our body. It's a holistic experience.
It
And
truly
we need,
is.
when we're talking about that stigma, I think it's helpful to think of ourselves as holistic beings. How do I feel in myself? If I'm physically unwell, if I'm having a lot of negative thoughts, if I'm more snappy with people, if I'm very tense all the time, then that's a sign that, hang on, I'm getting stressed. I need to take a step back and do something.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I think your personal testimony is very powerful. And I love that, you're happy to share that with us, and the fact that, a burnout is often used as almost a flippant remark sometimes. I'm going to burn out if I carry on, or you're burning the candle at both ends. And actually, it's a really significant life event. Like
yes,
you said,
it is.
It's physiological and it's emotional, and it's, it has a knock-on effect. But I just want to pick up on one thing, actually, because I think this is really important for people that maybe you haven't thought about it. It's when if you think about what stress is, it's your body going into flight mode, and it's the adrenaline surge over a prolonged period of time. Our bodies are not designed to have that level of hormone in our body. And so think about what that's doing. It's like a turbo engine constantly going into, restart. It's going to have an impact on you. And when you said there about, it might be something that your task, within the context of recruitment, let's say you've always been really good at business development, but because we've had all these, external economic factors, maybe your business owner's under more pressure because they've had to pay more rent this year and they've had to pay more salaries this year and all these other things. And actually now the thought of doing that job now makes you get all the prickly scalp and the knots in your tummy. It's time to go, actually, what can I do about it? Now, I think our listener is either going to be an employer and leader of somebody that either themselves is feeling that, or they've got somebody in their business that they need to give some guidance to of what the next steps would be. Or it's somebody that's maybe, having for the first time in their career a period where it's been sustainably stressful, possibly out of their control. So so we've recognized that in ourselves. We're off our food, or maybe, like you say, we're overeating. We're maybe not sleeping well, maybe our sexual appetite's disappeared, our appetite to go meet friends socially. So there's a noticeable change. What if that's me now listening, what physically and mentally can I do now to steer myself into the right direction?
Well, I think there are a few things that we can do. So we can firstly kind of look at our physical health and do things to address that. So we know that when we get stressed, we don't eat so well, and that's going to have a knock-on effect on the body. So perhaps kind of taking a look at food choices, what kind of food you eat, a little bit of movement can be really good. I think people can get intimidated by the idea of exercise, but moving the body can be a really good way of kind of offloading some of those stress hormones, or calming us down if it's something like yoga or Pilates, kind of getting us into that relaxation mode. So we kind of talk about the 5 ways to well-being. We got a section about that on our website, and that includes kind of moving more, includes taking notice. So maybe downloading a meditation app or doing some relaxation or meditation. And again, I think when you're very stressed, when you're in that state, you think, oh, there's nothing I can do. But I think what's important is to go, if you've got 5 minutes, what's the impact on your mental health of scrolling Instagram or doing some deep belly breathing to calm the body down. In the long run, the belly breathing is going to be better for you. If you're kind of
Yeah.
noticing, and in fact, scrolling on social media may be another sign of kind of stress, not losing hours and hours to TikTok and Instagram and all of those kind of things may be a sign for some people, as well as kind of withdrawing from social activities. Our contact with other people is really important. So one of the things that you can do is connect to other people. So you might, if things are really bad, go and see your GP. If you're not at that stage yet, you might go, which friend do I know who's going to just listen to me? Who can I
Absolutely.
talk to? So when we get stressed, we get anxious, we get sad, we get depressed, we tend to withdraw. But actually connecting with someone else can help us realize we're not alone, that these feelings, this experience is not unique to us. Other people do experience those things too, and help us feel supported. One of the services we offer at Manchester Mind is peer support, because we know how powerful and valuable it is for people to be in the same space discussing and sharing with each other. So it may be a friend, it may be someone at work, to just say, you know, I'm just feeling not right. Things aren't easy, or I'm not sleeping, or just having a space to talk. It may be, you know, if things are really bad, again, seeing the GP and seeing what other routes there might be. But I do think telling your friends and family, and not feeling shame. It's not shame to struggle. You
No,
know,
of
we are
course.
human,
We are human and we're
and
all vulnerable,
life
aren't
is
we?
hard. Yeah.
Life
And
is
life has
hard.
been hard for the
Yeah.
last 2-3 years. We've been under a lot. Everybody, everybody globally has been through a lot. So don't underestimate the impact of that on your mental and your physical health. And it's not a sign of weakness at
No.
all.
No.
So, you know, it's a huge it's a huge I've forgotten what the word is, because words go out of my brain sometimes. But it's a huge myth that, you know, only weak people experience these emotions or struggle. Like we all do. So
Nobody's immune to it, Ruth. I'm so pleased you
no,
brought that up, because
absolutely.
you know, for me, I think the defining flag in the sand of where vulnerability was shared about people's mental well-being in recruitment within leadership was COVID. Because for me, everything you've just said there is about creating a sense of belonging, which is, as human beings, all we ever want to feel, with whether it's with one person or with 10 people. And I think, for being not devil's advocate as such, but just kind of flipping it a little bit, I think it's very hard for those listening who are leaders to admit or acknowledge to themselves, and then potentially to whoever that safe person or people are, that there is no stigma. If you fell down a flight of stairs and broke both legs, and you literally were incapacitated for 2 months because you couldn't walk anywhere or go anywhere, no one would even, everyone would have been rushing to help you. What can I do? Oh my God, I did that. And it was, you could use these sticks, or this is a great physio. Let me help you with that. Here's a great painkiller. We would smother that person with support and help. Well, why is that any different to somebody saying, I'm crashing and I don't know what to do about it? And it's recognizing that nobody's immune to a mental health challenge. Nobody.
And of course, as you know, with that analogy of falling down the stairs and breaking a leg, you wouldn't expect that person to get up and run a marathon.
Of course
You would
not.
allow them
Be
time to
crazy.
heal. You would,
Yes.
you know, start walking on that foot gently. You wouldn't go from 0 to 100. So I think we do kind of, we are quite a harsh society. And, you know, kindness is really powerful. Kindness to our colleagues, to the people that we manage, and kindness to ourselves as well. So if we are struggling, instead of kind of beating ourselves up, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Why is it so hard? Going, yeah, it's human to struggle. How can I support myself? How can I help myself right now?
You talk very passionately, and one of your key strengths clearly is the mindfulness aspects, and it's something that I'm particularly passionate about. And I think, thinking about those rabbit holes we all go down in recruitment, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's whatever the social media capacity might be, or even just getting absorbed in the job that we do, what's the, I guess, the key fundamental principle of mindfulness, and how can we incorporate that into our actual day-to-day jobs as recruiters?
Well, mindfulness just means paying attention on purpose.
Paying attention on purpose. I love it.
Yeah. So that's being here now. So noticing how we're feeling in our bodies, noticing our thoughts. So if we are doing a task, we can do a task mindlessly, while we're thinking about something else. So I've got to think about my tea and da, 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 da. And we know when we do that, mistakes happen, don't they? Because our minds aren't on the task involved. So it just means being involved in the task that you're doing. Now, that can translate into doing something in a way that's very deliberate, noticing how it feels in the body, how it feels emotionally, and not getting carried away with those thoughts. So we can walk mindfully from our desks to the toilet. That can be a little mindful meditation. It's not going to take you that much longer. But you can get your awareness out of that thinking brain into, oh, I've got to do this next, and then I've got to do that, and then I've got to do that, into how does it feel in my body to need the toilet and to walk and to move my legs, and how does the carpet feel under my feet if you're barefoot in the house, as I am today. So there's all sorts of ways we can be mindful, have mindful moments throughout the day, to kind of help train our brain to come into our bodies and out of that kind of thought stream, which isn't a problem because our thoughts are great. We can be creative, we can problem solve, we can do all sorts of things. It's not that that's the problem. The problem is those rabbit holes that we get hooked onto in kind of negative thought patterns and spiraling down, thinking ahead or thinking backwards into what you've done, and that takes you out of the present moment. So one of the key things for me about mindfulness, other than that, it helps with stress, it helps with low mood, it helps with all sorts of things, is it helps us enjoy things more.
Well, there's no harm in putting joy back into it. And I presume it also allows us to be more productive in whatever it is we're actually doing at that moment in time.
Absolutely. If we are there, if we are doing the task, we are able to do it, you know, better. But also we don't beat ourselves up when we make mistakes. So we're able to move on from them better and learn from them better. So, you know, as I say, with kind of teaching mindfulness, we get a lot of people who do come, who are very stressed, but who come for stress and find other benefits, that their relationships are better, they're able to enjoy things more. On a day like this, while they're out and about, they can enjoy the sun on the skin instead of, you know, worrying and rumination takes us out of the present moment, and that leads to, or you know, kind of builds into that kind of stress and then eventually, you know, burnout. So
it does. And even you saying it now, I mean, I you know, I acknowledge that I'm a typical recruiter in the sense of I multitask frequently throughout the day. I have no choice. I might be on a phone call and then I think, oh my God, I just need to send that email. And then sometimes I look back on the email and I think there were spelling mistakes. Did I actually listen to what the candidate was saying to me? And honestly, I think it's a revelation when you understand the benefits and advantages, and you know, it makes you a much calmer person. I think I use it now when I and I downloaded the Calm app. I think it probably was in 2020, like millions and millions of people, and it's a fabulous app. And I think it does have like a free trial if you don't have to pay for it necessarily. But what it will give you is that moment in the present. And so for me, and a great, you know, as you're listening to this now, you're probably walking, maybe you're in the car, just whatever out apart from driving. If you are driving, please don't stop. But if you are just walking along, just look at look at the flowers, look at the sky, breathe in and smell what you can smell. I very often actually turn a podcast off and just listen to the birds, or I might listen to the traffic or whatever it is. 5 minutes. And it's actually quite a grounding feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Recruiters, we don't want to take people off, you know, if you're in an office, it's a 10-hour work day. When you go and make yourself a cup of coffee, leave your phone on your desk, go and make the cup of coffee, smell the percolator or the coffee beans, and actually stand there and enjoy your coffee for what it is.
Yeah, definitely. Really, really good advice there. And, you know, it's hard to be present. Our minds are designed to think. So lots of people say, well, I'm just thinking all the time. I can't switch off. And that's why we meditate. Meditate is the practice of practicing being present, because it's so hard to do in everyday life. So finding an app, finding maybe 10, 15 minutes once a day, as well as those little mindful moments, can be really beneficial. So we've got some meditations available. We've got like a 30-day mindfulness challenge on the Manchester Mind website, and that's accessible for everyone, whether they're, you know, in Manchester or not. And that includes little mini meditations that just 1 or 2 minutes. And I'm also on Insight Timer, which is another free meditation app. So there's hundreds of guided meditations on that, and you'll find me with just a few free meditations on there as well.
Fantastic.
So we've got a 5-minute body scan, a 10-minute breath meditation. So trying to make it accessible for people. Not everybody's going to have 45 minutes to lie down and be, but everybody's got 15 minutes.
Everybody has 15 minutes. Like you say, never mind the TikTok scrolling, just 15 minutes. And I just want to go right back to something that you said right at the start. For me, I'm 49 years of age and I've only this year discovered yoga. And if anyone's listening much younger than me, yoga is a life-changing thing to do for your body and your mind, isn't it? Because it teaches you meditation.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to get into those positions and you're using your breath, which I know you've just alluded to, all you are thinking about is your body and your mind and your breath. You're not thinking at the start of your yoga practice, you learn how to do this, but you physically, all you can think about is your balance here in this position and where am I going here? And you come at the end of that hour in your meditation state like a different person.
Wonderful. That's great to hear.
I think they should do it in school. I really genuinely think they should put that on the curriculum in schools from primary. I think it's a life-changing thing to be able to do that for yourself. And you can do a 10-minute yoga meditation. You can do a 10-minute yoga practice. Go on YouTube. And build that into your day. Even the busiest people can do it. So I'm a huge believer in that. It would be remiss, before we finish, it would be remiss of me not to pick up on another thing that you say that you specialise in, which is the wonderful period of a woman's life, of which I'm currently going through the peri stage, which is menopause.
Yes.
And again, it is something that I talk about very openly on LinkedIn, because to me, it's as natural as breathing or walking or having, whatever things that human beings do is a natural thing. And 50% of the population have or will go through this, and the other 50%, you'll know somebody going through it. So
absolutely,
everything, I don't know whether you were alluding to that before when the word escaped you. Words escape me all the time with my brain fog. What can we do to those either going through it, or if it's somebody that we're working with or that we love, that's a friend or family member, to ensure that their peri and menopause and post-menopause experience has the least impact on their overall well-being? What can we do? And I realise that's a huge topic, but just if there's one bit of advice.
Well, again, it's about support. A lot of us don't feel comfortable talking about it, so talk about it and help and support each other. So we've talked about stress quite a lot in this conversation. Stress makes menopause symptoms worse. So if you know someone who is in that time of life, and that's a long time, it's overall from beginning to end, it can be between 40 and 60 depending when you start and when you finish. It won't be 20 years for that person, but in that age range, then whatever you can do to support them manage their stress will have a knock-on effect on their experience of menopause. And some women sail through it. Some women have no problems at all, have no symptoms, sail through it fine. But there will be, quite a few, quite high numbers who struggle with the physical symptoms, with the emotional symptoms. Anxiety may get higher, may be more likely to experience panic attack or kind of general mental kind of overthinking, as I said, and feeling just that they can't cope. So anything that you can do to support people, encourage them to get help, because you don't have to suffer through it. And then we circle back to the mindfulness. We've really found that the mindfulness program for menopause has helped a lot of the people, the women who've been on the course, feel more supported because they're in a group, give them more coping tools to cope with the symptoms when they arise, these mindful tools to help them. They've got tools to calm themselves down when they feel really anxious. For some of them, the symptoms are less at the end of the course than the beginning because their stress is less. So, I would say with mental health, with menopause, with all of those things, talk about it. Be okay about talking about it. Then we can't support you if you don't tell people you need support. But if we want to support others, we need to feel okay about asking questions. How are you? Now, how are you really? I've noticed that you don't seem to want to come out as much as you used to. Or I've noticed that if it's in the work situation, it's taking you a while to get round to this task that I ask you to do. Do you need any extra support? What can I do to support you? So sort of
very
being
good advice. It's making a safe space. And I think, again, I think those leaders who do share their personal journeys of menopause and peri, like you say, I mean, for me, I'm 9 years into my peri, I think. I don't really know when it's, I think I was about 41-ish when I started with the symptoms, still full-blown peri. And I will talk about it very openly, but I recognise that I'm probably one of the few that will, because I feel no shame with it, because it's part of being a human being. That's what, you know, I talk about periods, I talk about, you know, sexuality. I think it's part of what makes us all human. And if you're listening to this now and you haven't yet created a safe space for this group of people, who, the thing is, it's not age dependent. You could have somebody in their 20s going through perimenopause and they don't know. But it's, and what you're saying is it's creating a safe space where people feel supported however they feel.
And you know, your recruiters throughout Greater Manchester, anyone working in an SME is eligible for some menopause education workshops run by Mind in Stockport. Fantastic. So Greater Manchester Minds has a website which details all the different menopause support available for not just people going through it, but those supporting them who are kind of working within SME. So I would encourage people to look at the Greater Manchester Minds website, which runs this program, because I mean, if you are in an SME or you kind of work for an SME and want to be more educated or want to know how to support, there's a course for managers, so want to support managers so that they can support their staff, do have a look at that.
Fantastic,
because that's a great program that's funded.
I was going to say, what can we do? That is an action point. All of my Greater Manchester community, and a lot of our listeners are working in SMEs or run SMEs. Please get in touch via the link that we'll share on this podcast. So before we finish, what can people do to get behind their local mind?
So every local mind is likely to have a website. Manchester Mind's website is manchestermind.org. We've got a wellbeing hub, which has got lots of information. So if you want to know more about burnout, if you want to know more about the 5 ways to wellbeing, about self-compassion, we've got little bits that you can read. It's not reams and reams, but enough information. You can support your local mind by following them on social media and sharing their posts, and the same with National Mind as well, because that again helps reduce the stigma when we can kind of share all this information. So again, we're Manchester Mind on Twitter and Instagram and all of those kind of places.
You mean X, but we'll not talk about that.
That one, yes. You can support your local mind by volunteering. So we do have volunteering opportunities at Manchester Mind. So depending on people's time, organisations as well could nominate themselves to be a charity, or for us to be a charity, one of their charities to support. Or you could just donate £3. We'll have a donate code for people. You can just donate £3, and all of those £3 add up and enable us to deliver the services that we do.
That's what that was. I mean, recruiters generally, because we're very competitive salespeople, we like to raise money for charity because we like to prove to ourselves we can. We set ourselves a target and we want to smash it. So in terms of fundraising opportunity, if anybody listening wants to partner with their local mind, get in touch, because there are things that you can do to support you incredible people. This has just been, we have covered a lot, Ruth.
We've covered a lot. That was a whistle stop, wasn't it?
I told you, didn't I? I said you're going to get into this and go, how did we just cover all of that? But for anyone listening, if you do need extra support, you know, please do get in touch with this incredible charity, whether it's in the local area or contact Just Mind, and then they'll put you in the right direction. You are not alone. You are surrounded by people who want to help and support you. And between us all, we can remove the stigma that should never, ever have existed around what is part of being human. So thank you so much for joining us on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast, Ruth. You've been amazing.
Thanks for inviting me. Have a good day.
You too. Well done.